If you wanted to rewire a computer, you wouldn't just press keys randomly and hope something changed. You would need power. You would need the correct software running. You would need a safe process. And you would need time for the update to install. Your brain works in a similar way. Most people approach change emotionally. They think, I need more discipline, or I need to want it more. But the brain doesn't respond to slogans. It responds to systems. In this video, we're going to break neuroplasticity down as a system. Not motivation, not mindset. A biological system with inputs, processing, and installation. By the end, you'll understand exactly why some learning attempts fail, why effort without recovery doesn't stick, and how to structure change like an update cycle instead of a guessing game. Let's start with the system itself. Every meaningful brain change follows two major phases. Phase 1 is activation. Phase 2 is consolidation. If either phase is weak, change fades. Activation is what happens while you are awake. Consolidation is what happens later, mostly during deep sleep. Think of activation as marking a file. Consolidation is saving it to the drive. If you mark nothing, nothing saves. If you never save, your work disappears. So what triggers activation? 3 primary inputs: relevance, attention, and reinforcement. If the brain does not perceive something as relevant, it ignores it. Relevance is tied to emotion and goal. When something matters to you, arousal systems increase activity. This is not about hype. It is about biological tagging. If you try to learn something you don't care about, activation is weak. The system doesn't assign priority. No priority, no structural change. The second input is focused attention. The brain constantly receives more information than it can process. Attention narrows the stream. When you direct attention deliberately, certain neuromodulators are released. Epinephrine increases alertness. Acetylcholine increases precision in specific circuits. These chemicals do not create knowledge. They create conditions. They make certain neural pathways more likely to strengthen. If you are alert but scattered, activation is diffuse. If you are calm but unfocused, tagging is weak. The system requires alert and specific. The third input is reinforcement. This is where dopamine becomes important. Dopamine does not simply signal pleasure. It signals that something is worth repeating. It strengthens circuits associated with progress or prediction. If you make effort but feel no internal reward or sense of progress, dopamine signaling may be low. In that case, the system does not strongly prioritize the pattern. You can repeat something many times, but without reinforcement, strengthening is slower, so the activation phase requires relevance, focused alertness, reinforcement. Now let's examine a common failure case using this system. Someone decides to learn a new skill. They sit down tired. They scroll between tabs. They check their phone. They half listen to a lesson. They feel mildly interested but not deeply engaged. They do this for an hour. What inputs did the system receive? Low relevance, fragmented attention, minimal reinforcement. The activation signal was weak. Later they sleep poorly. Consolidation is incomplete. The next day they remember little. They conclude they are bad at learning. But the system was never properly activated. Now let's examine the second half: consolidation. Once circuits are activated, the brain does not permanently change immediately. During deep sleep, especially slow-wave sleep, neural activity patterns replay. Synapses strengthen or weaken, connections reorganize. The brain integrates new information with existing networks. This is where structural change stabilizes. Without sufficient deep sleep, activation remains fragile. You can study intensely and still fail to retain material if sleep is cut short. This is not laziness. It is incomplete consolidation. Sleep is not a break from learning. It is part of learning. Here is another systems error. Many people increase activation but ignore recovery. They push long hours. They stack effort. They reduce sleep. They feel productive. But the installation phase is compromised. Over time, learning becomes inconsistent. Motivation drops. Frustration rises. They blame discipline. The real issue was system imbalance. There is also a secondary recovery tool: non-sleep deep rest. This includes structured relaxation with eyes closed, minimal stimulation, and directed attention inward. These states reduce stress hormones. They allow dopamine systems to reset. They improve readiness for future activation. NSDR does not replace sleep, but it supports system stability. Now let's refine the model further. The brain does not change in isolation. It changes relative to environment, and your attention defines environment. If you repeatedly focus on distraction, you train distraction. If you repeatedly focus on skillful effort under alert conditions, you train skillful effort. The system does not evaluate morality. It evaluates frequency and intensity. Whatever is repeated under activation conditions becomes prioritized. There is also a subtle layer many people miss. The brain prefers efficient patterns. Once a circuit strengthens, it becomes easier to activate. That means older habits often override newer ones under fatigue or stress. Not because you failed, but because the older circuit is more efficient. System strength determines default behavior. Changing default behavior requires repeated activation and proper consolidation. Without repetition across days, the old circuit remains dominant. Let's apply this to something practical. Imagine you want to improve focus. If you try to focus while checking notifications, activation is split. If you eliminate distractions and work in a defined time window, activation becomes stronger. If you end the session acknowledging progress, reinforcement increases. If you sleep well afterward, consolidation strengthens the circuit. After multiple cycles, focused work becomes easier, not because you forced yourself, but because the system strengthened that pathway. Now let's address frustration. During activation, epinephrine levels rise. Effort feels uncomfortable. This discomfort is often misinterpreted as failure. In reality, mild strain signals that the system is engaged. If you avoid discomfort immediately, activation stops. If you stay within manageable strain circuit stretch, this is not about pushing into burnout. It is about tolerating productive difficulty. Here is the transformation moment. Most people frame change as a character issue. I'm not disciplined. I'm not focused. I never stick with things. But when you view change as a system, those labels lose power. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? You start asking, did I activate properly? Did I consolidate properly? You shift from identity blame to system design. That shift is powerful, because systems can be adjusted. Character accusations cannot. So the complete system looks like this. Define relevance clearly. Enter focused alert effort. Allow reinforcement to register. Protect sleep for consolidation. Repeat across days. That is the loop: activation, installation, stabilization, repetition. If you interrupt any link, change weakens. No desire, no activation. No focus, no precision. No reinforcement, no prioritization. No sleep, no stabilization. It is not mysterious. It is mechanical. Now here is where this becomes even more interesting. Once circuits strengthen enough, they require less conscious activation. They become automatic, and that is where habits form. In the next video, we will explore how repeated activation cycles become self-running loops, how cues trigger behaviors without conscious decision, how reinforcement stamps patterns in, and how to redesign those loops intentionally. Because once you understand the system of change, the next step is understanding the system of automation.